Hey, what's up? John Sonmez from simpleprogrammer.com. So I got this question about trusting the process, and I've got a few questions about this idea. This is all sort of originated from this video I did originally called Trusting the Process, where I talked about the secret of life, which is to trust the process, which is something I've talked about quite a bit here. I think it's something really important. In fact, I have a shirt that I'm having made called that says "Trust the Process" on it. You can check out the picture here, and it'll eventually be for sale. Maybe we'll put a link in there once it becomes for sale. But anyway, I've got a few questions about this, and I decided that I'm gonna answer some of these. I did a video just recently about trusting the process, about basically how do you know that the process is right, Because there's no sense trusting a process if it's not right. You can check that out. But today I want to talk about what someone asked, which was when to check in on the process. And they asked this actually in the Facebook group, which if you haven't seen already, you can check it out. The only way to get in there right now is through the Patreon, which you can find here. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep that up or there'll be some other way to get in there. Right now, if you want to get in, the Patreon, at least at the time of recording this video, is the way to get in, so you can check that out. Anyway, here's the question I got here. It says, so we all know trust the process and are believers in it, but at what point in the endeavor do you take a step back and be sure that it's actually working? I feel as it's a double-edged sword. It's good and it's bad. It's good so you can see how you're progressing towards your goals, and it's bad because it can make you adjust course too much. So here's the thing, okay, so let's just recap real quick what it means to trust the process, right? To trust the process means this. It means that you figure out, you don't look at the results, okay? You don't focus on results, you don't focus on outcomes. You figure out the process that you need to do that's going to take you where you want to go, and you trust that process. You keep on grinding it out. You keep on doing the thing that you need to do. You follow the process. You don't worry about the results. You just know that you're going to get there if you keep following this process. Now, where does this break down, right? So we talked about already. I talked about this idea of picking the right process, right? And being sure that you pick the right process. And I talked about the idea of that you've got to pick something that you know can't fail, right? So when do you actually check in on this process and make sure that it's actually working, and how does this work? Well, here's what I would advise here, is that you don't want to check in on the process. And what I mean by this is that there's two things you want to do here. One, you want to make sure that whatever process that you're following, that you're going to trust, is so guaranteed to work that you don't need to check it. It's not a guess, right? When I talked about, I always use this juggling example, and I say, okay, if I want to learn how to juggle, one guaranteed way to do that is to lock myself in a room with 3 balls and to say I'm going to try and juggle them 1,000 times. I'm going to count it off 1,000 times. If that's my process that I'm trusting, I don't need to check in. I don't need to check in at number 10 and ask myself, how's it going, John? I'm just going to say, I'm just following this. I'm just going to do it 1,000 times. I'm not worrying about the results. I'm not worrying about checking in. It's going to work, right? The same thing here. I give you the example about YouTube, right? As I said, okay, if I put 2,000 videos on YouTube, if I do like 2 or 3 a day, okay, for a couple of years or so, I'm going to have like 100,000 subscribers. It's going to happen, right? It's like I don't really need to check in. Now that one is a little bit more of maybe I want to check in and see, but that could actually cause me problems because you don't know where the inflection points are going to hit. And this is one of the things is like, for example, creating a blog or doing blog posts, right? I have this course on how to create a blog. If you haven't checked out my free course on that, go sign up for that. But it might take a year or two before you start to get momentum, even if you're blogging every week. And then, you have this kind of thing here. So you kind of got to trust that process. Now, with that said, it doesn't mean that you should blindly follow something that's not working for a very long amount of time and potentially waste that time. So here's the second piece of that. The first one that we just discussed was picking something that can't fail, right? That's your first line of defense. That's what you want to do. I talked about the 10x rule. You can watch my book review on the 10x rule that Grant Cardone founded. But essentially, you're picking something. You're working so hard. You're picking something that can't possibly fail. When I was doing Pluralsight courses, I said I'm going to be the #1 author on Pluralsight. I'm going to do that by doing the most courses, more than anyone has ever done, and I did that. Okay, that it was something that could not fail. Okay, now the second piece of this is picking something that's short enough in duration, okay, that you can actually follow the process somewhat blindly and trust the process, right? I mean, trusting the process. So if you pick something that's too long in duration, where you won't be able to stand back and look at the results, you're going to be tempted to look at the results while you're going through the process, and that's going to cause you to course correct and make mistakes and not actually trusting the process, being focused on the results, where you're going to get discouraged. The whole point of trusting the process is that you know that if you keep going forward and you keep going down this path and you keep progressing, that you're going to make it, you're going to get there, you're trusting it, you're not checking on it, okay? So you got to make sure whatever you're doing has a short enough duration, right? So another example here, the juggling. You don't want to juggle 100,000 times to learn how to juggle, right? 1,000 is a good spot, because, I mean, maybe it's possible that you could throw balls up 1,000 times and never learn how to juggle. It's very doubtful, but at least that would be like a finite duration, and you could go and you could just say, I'm not going to worry about the results. I'm not going to worry if I'm getting good or better at juggling. I'm just going to do this, okay? And when I'm done, then I'll check the results. The same thing, like, let's say that you're trying to make sales calls. If you're a salesperson, right? Say, I'm going to make 50 calls a day for the next 30 days, and let's see how my sales do, right? I'm not going to check it after 5 days. I'm going to set that duration, and I'm just going to put my head down and drill and pick up the phone and call people, bam, 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 50 times a day for 30 days, and then I will check it. You see what I'm saying? I didn't say I'm going to do this for 3 years, okay? You don't want to commit to that, because then you'll be tempted to check it, and you'll need to check it, right? It makes sense. It's common sense. So basically, when to check in? No, never. Don't check in. You don't need to check in. Instead, make the duration short enough, make it so that the process can't fail, because if you're checking in on it, technically what you're doing is you're not trusting the process. You're looking at results. It doesn't mean that you don't ever look at results. It just means that while you're going down the path, while you're grinding it out, while you're making your progress, while you're trusting the process, you don't worry about the results. Once you're done, once you, in retrospect, yeah, you look at the results. Yeah, you make course adjustments, but it's better. You're gonna take these leaps. You're gonna go on this journey for some period of time. You're gonna do something for some period of time without worrying about the results. That's the whole benefit. That's the whole bonus. That's the whole point of trusting the process, right? And at least that's in the smaller scope of it, right? We can look at the bigger context of in life, trusting the process, that you're going to get better, that you're going to, and that's maybe a little bit of a longer scope, but at least for like accomplishing things, for reaching your goals, for improving this idea of trusting the process, it breaks down if you constantly have to check it. So you got to do, again, I'll rehash those two things real quickly here. One, it's got to be an infallible process, something that has a very, very high chance of succeeding, that's very, very unlikely to fail. You can't know 100%, but you want to be close. You want to 10x it. You want to do 2 times what you think is required, whatever it is. And number 2, it needs to be short enough duration that you can just follow this thing blindly, and then you can evaluate it. It can't be so long or so impossible that it takes forever, that by the time that you would course correct, it's too late. It's got to be of the right duration. So anyway, if you like this video, go ahead and click the subscribe button below. You got to trust the process, the subscribe process, to get videos from me every day. And I appreciate all of you. If you like this video, also, you could always give us a thumbs up here and share it with someone. Take care.